Good morning again. This part of the Transit Commission meeting is an important time for us to recognize brave, selfless, and inspiring OC Transpo employees who go above and beyond to help others in need. Today, we'll recognize two individuals from the month of February. This acknowledgement is part of the TransSecure program, which is a well-established community watch program on wheels. OC Transpo employees look out for the safety of all community members and as a result become the eyes and ears of our city. They notify emergency services when required and assist individuals who are in distress. Une telle reconnaissance fait partie intégrante du programme TransSecure, un service mobile de surveillance communautaire bien établi. Les employés d'OC Transpo veillent à la sécurité des membres de la communauté, de sorte qu'ils sont les yeux et les oreilles de la communauté. Il avise les services d'urgence aux besoins et aide les personnes en détresse. On February 19th, bus operator Bruce had finished his Route 11 shift and was standing at the traffic signal outside the Rideau Center, waiting to cross the Mac Bridge, something I'm sure we've all experienced once or twice in our lives. A teenage girl bumped into Bruce's shoulder on her way by and stepped in front of oncoming traffic. A bus and a car had to brake suddenly to avoid coming into contact with the young girl. Bruce felt something was wrong, so he kept a close eye on her as he crossed the bridge. Just then, the girl began to climb onto the edge of the bridge. Bruce ran towards her and yelled to get the attention of onlookers. As the girl was about to jump, Bruce was able to grip her arm and prevent it from happening. Bus operator Sharon was also on location at the time and witnessed everything. Together, Sharon and Bruce lifted the girl back over the railing to safety. Bruce then asked bystanders to call 911. Because Bruce and Sharon immediately jumped into action, a young girl was saved from a potentially tragic situation. I'm very happy that Sharon is with us today, and I'd like to invite her to join me at the podium. Unfortunately, Bruce could not be here, but we'll certainly ensure that he receives his certificate. As Chair of the Transit Commission, I want to say thank you. Your compassion and your quick actions demonstrated what the TransSecure program stands for and also reinforces OC Transpo's continued commitment to the safety and security of our customers and the entire Ottawa community. Votre compassion et vos actions rapides illustrent ce qui signifie le programme TransSecure et renforce l'engagement constant d'OC Transpo à l'égard de la sûreté et la sécurité de ses clients et de la population d'Ottawa en général. It is my very great pleasure to present you with this certificate. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Transit Commission meeting of Wednesday, the 16th of May. This is our 29th meeting of this term of council. Do we have any declarations of interest? Seeing none, confirmation of the minutes 28, 18th of April 2018. Carried. Thank you very much. We have a motion from Councillor Kakish, which I'll ask him to read now. Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. That pursuant to subsection 89.3 of Procedure Bylaw 2016-377, the Transit Commission approved that the rules of procedure be waived to allow for the consideration of the item listed as information previously distributed. Item A, product testing on OC Transpo's conventional bus fleet.
Is this motion carried? Carried. Thank you very much. Item number 1 is delegation of authority contracts awarded for the period of July 1st, 2017 to December 31st, 2017 for Transit Commission. Quick question, Councillor Nussbaum.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I was just going through the report, and it wasn't clear to me, just on Figure 3, there's an item under Service Area, Special Advisor to the GM, 2 contracts, total value $964,000. I just wondered if staff could explain what those 2 contracts are.
Yes, Mr. Chair, those are all related to operational readiness for the LRT. So there's advisory services in the rail area, and then there's also the Ready for Rail campaign.
Okay, so those are contracts for service, not compensation.
External services, correct.
Great, thanks.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, the Transit Commission and Council received the report for information. It's received. Thank you. We have presentations on everything else, so we'll just get right into it. Item number 2, 2018 operating and capital budget for the Q1 Transit Commission status report.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Chair. So this presentation provides an overview of the first quarter results for transit services. The Q1 report also includes budget adjustments made under delegated authority or a report to Council. In this Q1 report, we've also included the budget adjustments related to the change in the revenue service availability date from May to November. The transit budget was approved by Council on December 13th, 2017, but the RSA date was not confirmed until February this year. Therefore, adjustments are required to the budget approved by Council in December to reflect this change. As of March 31st, 2018, Transit Services is showing a surplus of $1.084 million. The surplus was primarily due to compensation savings related to unfilled vacancies and lower fuel costs, which was offset by higher support services expenditures and a fare revenue shortfall that was due to lower average fares paid by customers. Overall, the total actual compensation costs for the first quarter were 26% of the full year for 2018 compensation budget, which is below plan. The lower average fare is due to the sale of more discounted fare products such as Youth Pass, U-Pass, Day Pass than was budgeted, and compared to fewer regular fare products than budget. This slide provides an overview of the budget adjustments related to the delay in the RSA date from May to November. The net impact is zero, but individual budget line items need to be adjusted to reflect this delay. Expenditures for bus operations will increase, but this is offset by the reduction in maintenance costs and debt servicing. The monthly payments are now calculated to start in November instead of May, which is 5+ months worth of savings. Bus detours that were put in place for the construction period would also need to be extended, but this is offset by a similar amount that RTG must pay as part of the project agreement to compensate for the closure of the transitway and certain streets during the construction period. There's also a cost to run parallel service for up to 4 weeks during the transition period following the opening of the O-train. This was included in the approved 2018 budget, but was shown as a net number since it was funded from reserves. This budget adjustment simply properly aligns this cost with the increased expense and offsetting contribution from the reserves. So the recommendations include receiving the Q1 status report and the budget adjustments I've just described. The final recommendation takes into consideration the severance that will be incurred for bus operators. This amount is estimated between $5.5 million and $7 million. This amount cannot be confirmed and therefore was not included in the budget. However, the upper limit of the estimate was included in the Transit Long-Range Financial Plan. Until the amount is known, staff requests that the City Treasurer be given the delegated authority to pay any severances from the Transit Reserve and report back on the final cost as part of the year-end disposition report. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Councillor Wilkinson, please.
Yeah, I noticed that the overtime budget is at 31% in the first quarter, which is not going to be enough at the end of the year if it continues that way. Is that particular reasons for that, or have you made any adjustments to handle that?
So we're doing a delicate balancing act in trying to minimize the amount of layoffs we're doing. And you'll recall, you've seen the correspondence I've sent you in terms of the notices we've given to the Labour Board. We were as high as 600. We brought that down. We've been working in partnership with the union, and what we've worked out is we will keep vacancies open, so that means less people get laid off, There will be some overtime increases, but overall we're managing the bottom line. We're in a surplus, which is a really good state, given all the disruption that's going on in terms of detours and everything else. So we're balancing all those pieces, and I can assure you we're tracking all the major line items, including overtime. So we're good on salaries. We're about 26%, 31% in overtime. That's also typical of where we are in Q1 because of winter, and most of the overtime gets hit hard.
We usually catch up a bit in the summer as well, don't we? Yeah.
We do. This summer will be unique in that we're trying to minimize the amount of layoffs, but again, the counterbalance to that is the salary is vacant. Overtime, I know it's got a negative connotation with it, but you're not paying all the other overheads associated with straight time and so forth, so it's a balancing act.
And is there any... I've taken the bus a few times getting on the back door and watched the people get on who don't use their card at all when they get on, like most don't. I don't know how many of them have passes, because you can't tell that. So I think they'll get better when they get the light rail. If they have to go through a rail station, they're going to get caught on that, but in the buses they won't. Is there anything happening to try to encourage people to always use their card? I was amazed at the number of people not doing it.
Well, I think we have to be careful saying a lot of people don't. We do bring in close to $200 million in revenue, so people are buying passes, they're buying e-purses, they're doing that. With the LRT, we are closing the system down because you have to go through a gate. We're also doing that at some of our BRT stations with PTIF funding. We're doing gates and fare vending equipment. Eventually, around stage 3, we'll get rid of rear door boarding. That's the plan. That eliminates that. But quite often when we hear about people not tapping on the rear doors, they either have a monthly pass and haven't tapped, but that's not a good thing. But we have their money.
You don't know who's riding, how the buses are.
Yeah, or they're students, and we get in excess of, I think it's $30 million in guaranteed revenue from the UPass program. So we have the revenues, but you're absolutely right. They have to tap. We do strategic blitzes with our fare enforcement. And then we do respond to, we had a blitz, I believe it was in Councillor Harder's ward, where same pattern. She noticed a bunch of people not tapping. Mr. Charter deployed resources there, and we fined a bunch of people.
Yeah. One of the things that the impact is, I think it reduces our ridership numbers, or could, from what we report. I know we get some of our funding from the province based on our ridership numbers, I believe.
No, it doesn't do that. We calculate ridership through the thing that is always guaranteed, and that's we use it from our revenue sources and work back. The data from Presto and so forth will eventually be a crosstab, but until you've got that all gated up and people tapping and so forth, it's just a countermeasure.
It would be interesting to see if we get a much greater increase in ridership when we have the better system in place, but that's something that we're going to be able to tell.
I can tell you on Trillium, the data's already come in. We're seeing some positive behavior because you can't get on the Trillium line without going through a gate.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Egline. Did you have any questions? No? Okay. Commissioner Mallow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions. One is on the transit reserve. I recall we had a conversation about the transit reserve a couple of years ago, and just maybe to refresh our collective memory, could we get a brief description of the purpose of the transit reserve, how it's resourced, and what conditions have to exist before funds are withdrawn?
We actually conducted a full review of the reserves this year, and we recommended splitting the reserve between operating and capital. So right now we're still reporting it as a combined until the new bylaws come in place, but the combined transit reserve maintains both operating and capital, and it's supplemented each year through the surpluses and deficits. So surpluses and deficits that come in within the year would go through that transit reserve. Any capital close items would go through that reserve, and each year we put aside an amount we call pay-as-you-go. It's the contribution to capital, which is the cash we put aside to help to contribute to pay for capital. Capital is paid through cash and debt, and we maintain a certain amount of cash to help to pay for that. So when we actually submit the capital projects, we show what portion would come from cash, what portion would come from debt, and that's the authority to draw down on reserves for those pieces.
Thank you. And the authority to actually pull funds out of the reserve to balance the operational budget comes from this Transit Commission, essentially. There's no parameters that have to be in place. There's no conditions that have to be met. They're essentially at our discretion.
Sorry, I'm
just trying to understand, whether or not there are some conditions that have to be met before funds are actually used to supplement the operating budget.
So it's up to the Commission to approve, and what we have recommended as part of the reserves review is that we actually want to start to maintain a minimum balance. So that's the only real threshold, is we want to make sure that we're maintaining a minimum balance to manage fluctuations year over year.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'll look forward to seeing the new bylaws. I guess what I'm saying is there should be some extraordinary conditions in place before the reserve is exercised.
Mr. Chair, if I can just add to that, Commissioner, you're absolutely right. The authority to use the transit reserve funds, anything in that bucket, you approve through the budget process and then rises to council. And Mr. Taffy will correct me if I'm wrong. But to answer your question, it's got to be in the transit affordability plan, and it's got to be in the approved annual process that you approve and then rises to council. Staff cannot, in discretion, just start to tap into that fund.
Thank you.
It's not a slush fund. We can't cross over into other areas. You can't do pet projects and so forth. You would need council to open that up and give a specific direction.
Thank you very much. The second question deals with parallel operation. Now, we've discussed it in the past. It's always been in the budget, but $10 million seems like a lot to me. So maybe in the fall we can get a presentation. That was slide number 2, I believe, in your presentation today. We can better understand what that actually means, parallel operations, as we get ready to actually execute it, because it's not clear necessarily to me, like if I get on a 262 in Stittsville, will it actually stop at Tunney's, or will one continue downtown even when the train is in operation? But I know it's early.
No, your question is a very good one. The chair has asked for, and we will be bringing you a fall report. And it's also going to be fed through the Ready for Rail campaign too. I loved your example. What do I do? Because while parallel service is an extra layer of protection and a transition. We don't want a big bang for our customers because we're introducing a transfer. We also want to push everyone to the train. And so your question is very valid, and absolutely the chair has asked that we bring you a full operational review of how things are going to work.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Milner.
Sorry, I have just a really quick question on slide 3 here. I did an MBA, and I have no idea what expenditure, savings, debt, service payments, and a negative number means. Can somebody explain that?
So which line in the 16.6?
The expenditure, savings, debt, service, payments, the $9.8 million.
Oh, the $9.8 million. So as part of the monthly payments to RTG, we are paying back the $300 million in capital. There's a monthly amount that we have to pay back. It includes principal and interest. Because there's a 5-month delay, we don't have to make those payments. So we actually make those savings. We don't. We would have repaid the $300 million over 30 years. We've actually saved those months in terms of principal and interest payments.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Councillor Nussbaum. Actually, I had the very same question. But so that expenditure will come out of operations from now on. That's an operational as opposed to a capital payment? Okay, thanks. Seeing no further questions, that item number 2, that the Transit Commission received the 2018 Q1 status report for information, adjust the 2018 operating budget as detailed in the report, and delegate authority to the City Treasurer to pay any severances from the Transit Reserve, and report back on the final costs as part of the year-end disposition report. Is this carried? Carried. Carried. Thank you very much. We're going to move to the IPD item before we go to items 3 and 4, just for the sake of our friends in the back. And so Item 5, I suppose, is product testing in OC Transpo's conventional bus fleet, and I'll hand it over to Mr. Manconi and his team.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Charter is going to walk you through a short presentation. We wanted to make you aware of this. While we do a lot of product testing on a continual basis on all fronts, there's some elements to this particular batch of testing that is customer-facing, and we wanted you as a governing body to be aware of it and to share that information with you. So, Mr. Charter, over to you.
Thank you, John. Mr. Chair, we'll be talking a little bit, I said I got a short presentation to talk about product testing in OC Transpo's bus fleet. Every year, as part of OC Transpo's operation, a variety of product tests, evaluations, and field exercises are undertaken to ensure that the bus fleet continues to provide a safe, reliable, and customer-focused service. In previous years, tests and evaluations have included product tests of things such as anti-graffiti film, anti-slip floor coatings, batteries, radiators, and even mechanical components such as hoses and clamps. This year's product testing includes tires, a blue interior lamp diffuser, which I'll explain shortly, operator barriers, products to reduce road debris on driver mirrors, and vinyl wraps. All the information that we gather from these tests will help to inform future equipment purchases and related contracts. As tires are a major component of our operation, we actually use approximately 6,000 tires per year. This is an area where we spend considerable time monitoring the industry and evaluating new or different products. Over the course of this year, we'll be testing several different tread designs as well as tire compounds on a sample size of our bus fleet. The outcome of these tests will evaluate the overall tire performance in consideration in terms of tire longevity, traction, and cost per kilometer. During night operations, it has been observed that the interior lights inside a bus can create a glare in the operator's windshield. A blue laminated lamp diffuser, as you can see in this picture, is essentially a blue film cover that is affixed to the current lighting cover and is being tested to confirm that it reduces the glare on the front windshield while at the same time providing sufficient lighting for our customers. With respect to operator barriers, OC Transpo has been monitoring industry developments for over 10 years, and during this time new products have entered the market, our bus fleet has grown, and we've added new bus types to our fleet. In working with our health and safety committees, it is anticipated that in the fall of this year, approximately 8 to 12 buses will be outfitted with an operator barrier. Over the course of the year, a review of both the operational impacts as well as the potential benefits of the driver barriers will be assessed. At present time, we're currently reviewing available products. One such product you can see here in the picture on the slide. We're looking at the available products on the market, and we'll be finalizing both a deployment and an assessment plan. Another initiative that we're working closely with our health and safety committees on are products to help reduce the amount of road debris or simply dirt that comes from the front wheels and soils the operator's outside rear view mirrors. Two products are being assessed, a brush configuration attached to the inside of the wheel well, and I know it's hard to see here, but that's your picture on the left. There is actually a brush that goes around that wheel well, just on top of the wheel. A brush configuration, as well as a plastic cowl that is installed over the wheel well that slightly extends out just a little bit, and it's designed to minimize or block the spray, the dirt, from reaching the driver's mirrors. Lastly, vinyl products for vehicles have increased both in terms of quality and in terms of their application. As a result, more and more transit companies are turning to vinyl as an alternative to the traditional paint. The key benefits are lower costs, as vinyl applications can be approximately 5 to 10 times cheaper than a paint application, and the reapplication of vinyl following repairs can significantly reduce vehicle downtime. This product testing will see vinyl wraps installed on the lower portions of a sample of our fleet to assess the product's durability and ease of application. And lastly, in closing, and as previously mentioned, the information gathered from these product tests, combined with information from our suppliers, other transit properties, and our own experience will serve to inform future purchases and related contracts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious, how do you determine in any given year what products you're going to be testing? How do you determine what the need is?
Mr. Chair, every year we have, we're looking at our fleet size, we're looking how it's aging, how it's operating, and we're looking for opportunities to both improve reliability and improve things such as safety or the customer comfort features. So our fleet and engineering team, they look at those things, they look at what's out there on the market, they speak to other properties, and then they make an assessment as to what options and what opportunities we can move forward with this year and what provides us the best value to assess.
And as a determining factor, is there an overall new stuff budget? Like where does the money come from to say we're going to do wheels and we're going to do lights, and who pays for that and how's that arrived at?
Mr. Chair, the team is quite, obtuse when it comes to new products, in that we are inundated with hundreds of requests every year. There are gadgets coming out. You can save fuel, you can improve comfort, all those things. And our first response with anything that's new and exciting and shiny and expensive is we say, go to the National Research Council, give us an independent assessment, or give us an industry best practice paper that says we should look at it if we're not informed or aware of it, and we'll take a look at it. I did one the other day myself on fuel savings. But really the things that we want to do is generally cost neutral, in that we build it into what we're doing already. So on the tires, when we're swapping out tires, we're just swapping out a different tire, and then we're just monitoring it with our current staff. We don't have a budget for big tests and pilots and so forth. We leverage Canadian Urban Transit Association. We don't want to redo all the testing and commissioning, so there's a Canada-wide assessment right now on electric buses, for example. Every electric bus demo I get, I say I'm tapped into the CUDA thing, and we're on that panel. There's the APTA, which is the American Public Transit Association. There's UITP, which is international. And then every once in a while we get a nugget that comes in that's we hadn't thought of, and we look into that and spend some time. But there isn't an R&D budget, and we don't have the resources for that. We fit it in with the current work volume, and Mr. Charter and the whole management team brings, as part of our annual budget, internal capacity planning exercise, things they want to fit into their current workload.
And what's the relationship for this type of testing of a new product? What's the relationship between you and procurement? Like, how does that process work so that we're not sole sourcing something or
joined at the hip? We absolutely bring them into the regime, and they're part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Commissioner Milner.
So just a quick question, just following up on Councillor Eglei's point. When you're inundated with these products, I assume that there's a number of products that are offering to give you their product for free, probably in the short term. I know it's a big issue in other industries. I'm not necessarily saying that that's a bad thing for the taxpayers of Ottawa and for the ridership, but what sort of equation goes through to make sure that we're testing the right things, especially given the limited amount of time and staff, especially if something goes wrong or isn't as good as it's claimed to be? I could see this being a drag on staff's time if, say, the tires start exploding faster or something like that.
We start with the premise that generally nothing's free. I tell every salesperson who comes or wants to talk to us, we do not spend a lot of time listening to sales pitches. We tell them to register as lobbyists, and we tell them to go talk to Mr. McDonald, who's just here. I don't know if he's still here. He's gone, Chief Procurement Officer. If it's a problem that's not either being tracked by those various associations or by the people that know the business, like on tires, go talk to the men and women that change tires. They'll tell you what the real issue is. Operators, so forth. The other thing, and that's how the Shields is part of this, are health and safety committees.
Yeah.
That's joint management, union, and staff. They bring forward ideas and suggestions, and we look at those things there.
Yes, certainly with the driver barriers, I know that's something that's been raised a number of times over the years, and ensuring the safety of our drivers is obviously, our operators is an incredibly important part of what we do. And I'm curious to see that report come back to the commission on what product you guys see best, because I think that there's a fine line there to be, putting people in a box versus having driver safety, and I think there's certainly a lot to be said. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nussbaum, please. Thanks, Chair. I just want to follow up on the General Manager's comment about electric buses, because I've been watching that. Looks really exciting. I guess Toronto and Edmonton and Winnipeg and others are looking at demo buses, and I'm just curious whether you share that excitement. Do you think this is a technology that has the potential to transform your fleet?
So it's going to come. I've told every supplier I'm okay being leading edge, not bleeding edge. The challenge you have here in your city is your large service area. So charge time and recharge time. We have had not a very good experience with hybrid buses, 150 of them, which have not yielded the savings that everyone predicted because the battery technology changed and they're very expensive. QTRIC, which is the association arm of CUDA, is doing a lot of testing on that. But I think importantly, the thing we're watching is what's going to happen with the major suppliers in terms of when they think they're ready. And every CEO of the three manufacturers that I've spoken to have indicated it's coming, but to meet our challenges in our particular area, it'll be a bit of a battle for them. That doesn't mean that it's not around the corner. So we're tracking that. We also remind them all that we've been through about 6 or 7, I think 8 fuels in my career: propane, CNG, electric, hybrid, clean diesel, all those things. And so it's tough. It's tough the bus industry is a demanding load on those things. And then our recovery time is very narrow because we're back-to-back service on that with our fleet. So they're aware of it. They would love Ottawa to have some electric buses being tested. They couldn't meet the travel time and the charge time. Mr. Scrimger and Mr. Charter met with them when they were looking at opportunities to do a trial run, and it couldn't meet some of that. But it's coming. So is other technologies in that area. Hydrogen, a bunch of things we're watching.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Are there any other questions? Oh, Councillor Tierney.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. While we're talking all bus technologies, remember we had that blower problem on some of the buses that were very, very loud. What's the status of that? I think you're referring to the double-decker buses? No, actually, I think it was the Arctics. But when we talked about this, it was something to deal with the heat pump or something, and I forget. We talked about this a couple of years ago, and they were very, very loud. I think John knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it was the afterburner. They've all been addressed. There was a retrofit with New Flyer. I believe it was all done under warranty, but there was a fan system in the back, and at certain periods it's just doing the blow through, and it's very, very noisy. Okay, great. But it's all part of the design. I think they did some silencing with it.
Oh, great. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? Seeing none, is the item received? Received. Thank you very much. I now will go to Councillor Kakish, who has a motion to bring the commission in camera.
That in accordance with Procedural Bylaw 2016-377, the Transit Commission resolve in camera pursuant to subsection 13(1)D, labor relations or employee negotiations, subsection 13(1)F, the receiving of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. As the content of the in-camera presentation to the Commission regarding the collective bargaining mandate for negotiations with the Canadian Union of Public Employees, Local 5500, an update on labor matters relating to the bus rail transition contains information pertaining to the city's labor relations and bargaining approach and the background on negotiations, the release of which could prejudice the city's legal and bargaining position in respect of these labor negotiations. The material falls within exceptions contemplated by sections 13.1D and 13.1F of City Councilor's procedural bylaw, and is also exempt from disclosure pursuant to subsection 6.1B and 52.3 of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. As such, this matter will not be reported out.
Very much. Carried? Thank you very much. If we could vacate the room, please. Thank you. And just a reminder,